Podcasting since 2005. This is the King of Podcasts radio network, kingofpodcasts.com.
The Bloodline could have been a heralded story, thriving even longer than the Von Erichs. But instead, what do we get?
Woo! Hey, this is the Nature Boy Ric Flair. And believe it or not, whether you like it or don't like it, learn to love it. Because you have to listen to Wrestling is Real. It is the best thing going today. Woo!
The worldwide leader of podcasting excellence. The King of Podcasts radio network proudly presents The Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
And this is episode 936 of the Wrestling is Real podcast. This is King of Podcasts here with you. kingofpodcasts.com. Of course, where you find all the show episodes, past episodes, and more. You can go and find it right there on the website, and also through all the various podcast platforms, whether it's on my YouTube channel at King of Podcasts, or Amazon Music, YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, among other places. You can find the show if you want to go ahead and help out and support the program. Besides making sure if you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, you can go ahead and catch a couple of commercials that will actually help out to monetize this program, because I make a little bit off those commercials as you listen through. Or if you would like to go ahead and help and donate to the program, add a little to the tip jar, you can find the donate button at kingofpodcasts.com, PayPal, Cash App, buy me a coffee. If you would like to go and do so, I'd hope you would consider it. So here we are now. People can go ahead and talk all they want about AEW Grand Slam Mexico. Mercedes Moné over the top now with 6 title belts, winning the CMLL women's title. You can talk about Tony Khan making his comment about the ratings and how things are going as he's visiting Nice, France right now at the Cannes Lions Advertising Festival. Among other things we could be talking about. We can go on with the current storyline right now of going in the Night of Champions. And what we talked about last week with CM Punk, now having to go ahead and make that trip to Saudi Arabia, probably against his own will, that has to go and do this route. You know, somebody that has made his political opinions known, maybe not so much verbally, but very visually. And then other things are, we could talk about a lot of other things. But the one thing is, with the issues that WWE has right now, and the people that want to complain about where the storylines are and how flat we are right now going in the Night of Champions, while John Cena's heel turn has been so flat and has not worked out well, it still comes down to one thing. When Vince McMahon, almost 3 years ago now, it was May 2022, where the Wall Street Journal came in, the lawsuits started coming in, and he had to go and step down, and then eventually would go and sell the company. Let's put it like this. Since then, there was one storyline above all that we were all praising, and it was holding up so well. The Bloodline. And think about everything that we had with that storyline back in those days and where things had gone as a result. We had a wonderful time with it. Incredible time looking at what the Bloodline could have been. I remember going back and looking at when we had the announcement leading up to WrestleMania 40 and the Bloodline being built up and what we had with that whole story, and thinking about the dynasty that was and how it really did work out. I mean, there were so many stories in 2024 that I talked extensively about the Bloodline. Think about it. Cody Crybabies. The whole story that we had where Cody and Roman would take on each other for the undisputed WWE Universal title at WrestleMania 40. We could have expected Seth Rollins to go ahead and challenge Roman Reigns, which it never really went to for whatever reason. And if Seth Rollins would have had that title match with Roman Reigns in 2024, or even last year, something where before Cody's title reign, if Seth would have had it here, and look at where they've gone by the wayside with him. He's back to another Monday Night Messiah gimmick, basically. But you add Paul Heyman to the mix, it is the Monday Night Messiah. Basically just repackaged. You could include Kevin Owens or Samoa Joe to fill the role of what Bronson Reed is right now, or what AOP was. You could say what Buddy Murphy or Austin Theory, that's what Braun Breaker represents. That's it. That's 5 years ago. And then we come back to this here, and now they have the current faction that, okay, now they have the Money in the Bank briefcase. There's something there because of the significance of Seth Rollins winning the Money in the Bank briefcase. Now you have something that faction has something to go and hold over other people to take control, as they're trying to say they're going to. Revolutionary, right? We never got The Rock and Roman Reigns, which would have been a great match. Would also have been good. But Roman Reigns now, AWOL. Ever since he lost the belt, ever since basically the Survivor Series, been out of the picture. Or actually the triple threat at WrestleMania, been out of the picture. And the whole Bloodline storyline as completely unraveled. And it wasn't that hard for us to go ahead and get here. I mean, so easily we could have kept this story going. Listen, I don't have a problem with who they brought into the mix. When you brought in Gorillas of Destiny with Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, when you brought in Jacob Fatu, arguably the best choice of who to bring in. Hikuleo now has been brought in. Jeff Cobb as JC Mateo has been brought in. Couple of things you could have done to help out in the respect of these, because Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, no story told with them. They're not the next Usos, but they could have been done better, and they could have been booked better. The same thing going for JC Mateo coming in right now as Jeff Cobb. We could have gotten Jeff Cobb to get a little bit tightened up on shape before he comes out so quickly after getting signed. Otherwise, Jacob Fatu, I can't complain. Of course, I'm always going to hold my own feelings about seeing him as the Samoan werewolf in MLW and the Contra Union. That will still be my favorite version of Jacob Fatu, no matter what they're doing right now. But Jacob Fatu now, in this realm of WWE, they've created a couple different catchphrases. So, not a mean, right? You got all gas, no brakes. Hey, that's great. The catchphrases, the way he's being presented, no problem there. That's fine. But it still comes down to the fact that the whole Samoan dynasty that we have, you could have kept something that still comes attached to it. Because remember when Solo Sikoa first came into play, and it also was coming into play with the original Bloodline, that guy was still coming out. You know, they didn't worry about like having dressed all in black, looking like some kind of a gangster kind of unit. We didn't need any of that. The Samoan aspect of this group as the Bloodline should have been intensified. Now, I'm not asking for the Usos going back together and doing the tribal dance before they go out there, the war dance before they went to the ring. No, but you can keep some of that and keep some of it still here. In essence, I had no problem with the Usos being broken up, where Jey Uso is moving on to a main event picture. But the biggest problem is now they've done that main event picture. He has resulted in having a great entrance now. He's got his catchphrase, yeet, it's out there. Jimmy Uso, not so much. But again, injuries have kind of hampered his move where he is and what he's doing. But just by name alone, he's always going to get a pop. But what have they done with him? They've kind of let him go by the wayside on SmackDown. He has done nothing. And now we're at the point where Jey Uso dropped the belt, and now we have Gunther confronting Goldberg. Say what you will, I don't think we need to see Goldberg again in another match. They're not even talking about this being a retirement match. They're not even talking about this being a title match. As far as I know, I don't believe it's been called a title match for Saturday Night's Main Event, but it could be. But no fanfare, no real reason why we're getting to this point. We're just hearing the fact that at Saturday Night's Main Event, you're going to get Gunther and Goldberg. Okay, so Goldberg getting that nostalgic pop, that's what you're going to get for him. But otherwise, what else are you going to get? It's just trying to understand where is the direction right now. And part of it is, I think there's a lot to be said about how much pull, how much stroke Paul Heyman has in the back. Because he was part of the whole Bloodline storyline. And it got a lot of play. And it was working really well. And when they wrote him out of the secondary Bloodline, after the first Bloodline took him away because he decided to go and defect, now he's working on this new faction with Seth Rollins, which apparently is going to get new members. Do we really need that? So we're going to get more people into this faction when they already got 3 right now. We don't need to have more. And if you're going to choose to have anybody in a new faction here with Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, what are we doing here? What are they going to become? We're just going to have attached people right now because Paul Heyman's a part of it. So we're not even getting, now we're getting more Dangerous Alliance if that's going to be the case, because that's what they want to go and do. So 2 names that are being talked about right now, according to bodyslam.net, is they're looking to go ahead and bring from NXT Ethan Page and Ricky Starks, or Ricky Saints. What are we doing here? We're going to create another evolution here. And what they're going to be doing, are any of these people going to be going after any belts? Because Braun Breaker was IC champion before. Then he joins this group. And what are we doing with him now? I don't know. You're going to bring in Ethan Page, who's still NXT champion. You're going to have to drop the belt for him and move forward. And what, Ricky Saints was or still North American champion? I forget now. So the stints they're going to have for those 2, they got to be called up. And I guess this is really more just the point that Ricky Saints and Ethan Page cannot be kept down in NXT because the director from TKO Group Holdings is like, look, if you got these veteran stars, we need to move them up. And they're making changes right now with the roster because of some of the cuts they've been making. And it's pretty obvious they're also taking a lot of what the audience is telling them, or at least the very juvenile, delusional fan bases out there, and listening to them. I don't know. And when they don't have anybody else ready to handle things, you've been building up Liv Morgan for months upon months. Remember when she came back in after the whole deal with getting injured and then coming back and being attached to the Judgment Day and everything being done with that. And now she gets hurt, separated shoulder, dislocated shoulder, 3 to 4 months is standard on an injury like that. Will they decide to go and keep her on television in an honor role, regardless if she's wrestling? Maybe have to give up the tag team titles, but what are we going to do with that? It's all these things. But there are so many other storylines that are off the rails anyway. No real storylines being built up at all where we are right now that are really built in story and not just picking up maybe a little bit of history from other stars of what they had before. Maybe not even in this company, but it might have been in NXT that nobody was watching, or in some other company that nobody was watching either, or not enough people would have known. All those things. But first and foremost, we didn't need a new faction with Seth Rollins. There was nothing wrong with the Bloodline storyline. But for whatever reason, things changed after WrestleMania 40, where the decision was, it's like the NWO. We're going to create another version of NWO. And supposedly it's going to be like the Wolfpack. So you have the original Bloodline and then the Bastard Bloodline, which I called it because of all these others that came in mutiny because of Solo Sikoa decided to change. And now he's so weak as a leader, he can't even keep Jacob Fatu in line because of his own ego and stroking and really. And what has he done as this leader? He hasn't been a champion. He hasn't moved up or been elevated at all. Jacob Fatu, for the credit, they gave him the U.S. title. I would have put him a little bit farther up in the role, but no, they're going to keep him there. Fine. But the rest of the Bloodline, on the other side, Roman Reigns, out of pocket. Nothing about trying to go ahead and get back and get the title that he held for 13 some odd days. And Jey Uso has been on and off very quickly with the IC title and the World Heavyweight title. Rikishi, the father of Jey Uso, decided to go ahead and make points about this on his podcast. And partly you can understand him being a father, how he thinks personally so highly of his son and how much work can be done. But I'm going to agree with a lot of what he says. So you might have already heard some of this, but it's worth listening to it and just breaking down what he's saying and taking it into real context.
Here's what I feel. I feel that those are writing for this kid, his storyline, you didn't do him justice. You didn't feed this champion right talent to be able to continue to make this champion. Not a fair shot in my eyes. So you go 51 days. I say fire. Fire those that are writing for this kid here. If you can't come up with something simple to promote and push your champion, that you, not me, you decide to put this kid in that position. And then that's it. All of a sudden, the brains done went, just cloudy, like you can't write. You can't think of an angle for Jey. Well, if you can't do your job, I say, best endeavors. Get the hell out the way. Put somebody in that position. Because the longer you keep the belt on this kid, the longer we talk about what's good for business. Merchandise sales to the roof. That's what it is. Last I knew. If you can't make money for the company, why are you in that position?
Jey Uso had all that was needed to go ahead and continue to keep him going. Listen, I don't know how much he was compared to merchandise with, say, John Cena right now, or with Roman Reigns, or with whoever else, or even with R-Truth, I guess, for that matter. I don't know. But there is a thing to be said about where Jey Uso could have had some other opponents to go up against that could have changed things up. But let's go into the storyline right now, just to break down the timeline of where we are with everything, right? So after WrestleMania 40, let's make sure to make everything clear here, okay? After Reigns loses the title to Cody Rhodes, you have the end of this historic reign. And with Roman Reigns, you could have expected a brief hiatus or renewed focus on the tribal chief without the burden of the title, but it was muddled. Instead, we get Solo Sikoa asserting new authority, attacking Jimmy Uso. Tama Tonga joins. And Tama Tonga, as mentioned, is made to be Solo's new enforcer in this new faction. Tonga Loa comes in a month after. Guerrillas of Destiny are reunited. Then Jacob Fatu comes in. So now you got the faction as it is. But the expansion was forced. I would have preferred that Jacob Fatu was brought in first before the Guerrillas of Destiny, or even not even know if the Guerrillas of Destiny need to be a part of this at all. But then you get to summer and fall 2024. Jey Uso now in the main event picture, single star, holds the Intercontinental title for 28 days, wins it in September, drops it in October. And then he gets to the World Heavyweight title ending on June 9th. But he gets momentum and it goes away. So when you look at 51 days as World Heavyweight Champion, it was a transition to put the belt back onto Gunther. Why do we have to go and do that? Because you got to ask yourself, what was it that they did with him? Was the kind of deal with Logan Paul. But other than that, Jey Uso could have had a number of stars that could have gone after him after that belt to continue to build up. It wasn't like Jey Uso wasn't the kind of would not go ahead and move forward. But then you go back and you have him confront Gunther again a little more than a month after. And with Gunther, you wasted him because of the fact that you had him go up against Pat McAfee. That was the route you decided. A 1 month storyline just to do a little deterrence for Gunther losing the belt and taking his frustrations out on a commentator, essentially. But nothing really saying that, oh, Gunther has earned his right to go back after the title, unless you want to invoke a rematch clause, which I don't know if they did or not. But like I said, Jey Uso, last year, September, October, IC title reign. Short. But you would think with an IC title reign, okay, then eventually that moves him up to the World Heavyweight title. But it doesn't make any sense what they did. The IC title was also transitionary. Because it was Sami Zayn getting it back, right? There's no commitment to him. Has a great entrance. He's over, right? So he's always going to be a fan favorite. And house shows will always get to go and see him. The Yeet shirts will fly off the shelves. But you didn't have to go ahead and put him at the point where, as a Bloodline character, he is probably second most favorite. Because of all the time that was spent, him being main event Jey Uso and moving forward and supporting the Bloodline. The fact that he was on his own with no Bloodline to be had, no brother on his side, nobody else from the Bloodline to be on his side. Left to his own device. Completely separated from the Bloodline. With the Bloodline itself, you could have had them go after Jey Uso in the title. You could have had that storyline being told, but it's because whatever they resolved at Survivor Series, that's all that mattered. The biggest thing you could tell was the neglect of this Bloodline storyline was when they decided to do the Bloodline reunion to put back Roman Reigns, Usos, Sami Zayn, and then you get CM Punk involved in the match. So of the Bloodline reunion, the focus isn't even on the Bloodline, it's on CM Punk being the fifth wheel. The squeaky wheel in the whole storyline, which begat other storylines. But the Bloodline completely neglected because of the idea was, in this Survivor Series, you saw Solo Sikoa's Bloodline lose in a War Games match. And that's it. Tonga Loa gets injured, and there we go. Bronson Reed, at one point being aligned with the Bloodline, now he's in this new faction with Seth Rollins. You put so much into the brokenness of the secondary Bloodline to then say, okay, after a while, Roman Reigns comes back. He keeps getting torn down trying to put the Bloodline back together in a weakened role from him being the tribal chief. I'm sorry, when they started calling him OTC, lost it. Lost it, because now it's like completely, okay, so the Ulafala, that prop was made more important than any title of the Bloodline, which you could have told a lot more. You could have spent a lot more time on it. The Bloodline should have been the Von Erichs of this age, where whatever you do with the Bloodline, if you just have any other stars that are in the same spectrum, in the same radius as the Bloodline, you could have had a great storyline going. You could have easily had other stars made. Put it like this, okay? If you wanted to go and have Bronson Reed or Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn or whatever else, look at Sami Zayn was made relevant because of the Bloodline. Now, I'm not saying he wasn't relevant before. He was upper mid-card status anyway. But Sami Zayn's rise up here to even get near the main event picture, where eventually the whole deal with him and Karrion Kross, you're going to see a point where Sami Zayn will probably get to go after the world title. The World Heavyweight title will be something he's going to go after because he's already said he's want to. But that's because of the Anoa'i Uso storyline he was a part of in the Bloodline. It elevated Sami Zayn to main event level. But then you have the breakdown of the secondary storyline of the Bloodline. Okay, Solo Sikoa's faction's all broken up a little bit. And now he has to bring in some new people. So you get JC Mateo. And now you get Hikuleo is going to be coming in. He's only been on main event so far, but he's eventually going to make the main roster. And he's going to join his Samoan brothers. Sit. So what is that going to prove? What is that going to make? Because Solo Sikoa and that team, Jacob Fatu now has broken off. So now Jacob Fatu that's being built now towards I guess, a face run now as at this point? I don't know. So they don't want to have Roman Reigns in this part. That's fine. But why didn't the Usos? You didn't have to go and split up the Usos. You got them back together again in the reunion at Survivor Series. Why didn't you keep them together? Like, they still kind of talk to each other, but they're really not together in much of anything. Because when Jey Uso goes out, except for the part of incorporating Jimmy Uso as a pawn to get Gunther some heat as a heel to make that WrestleMania match matter, so that when Jey Uso got the belt, at least there was some good heat for Jey Uso to have won the belt. And you feel like, oh yeah, he deserved it. Okay, but don't use pity on him. He's been used as good capital. You've invested a lot of time on him to become this level of champion. And if you want to have him out there cutting promos, have him go out with his brother. And let his brother kind of do the speaking for him. Or even with the Bloodline, it wasn't even matter that certain stars had to go and talk for themselves. But you're leaving Jey Uso out there by himself. He's great when he gets to bounce off of somebody else. So if he got to go and bounce off of Sami Zayn, if he got to bounce off of his brother Jimmy, that would have worked better. And you could still keep them separate. But you chose not to do that. The only person right now at all that's really gotten anything of importance is Jacob Fatu. So you brought him in. He's been an immediate overnight sensation. You get him a U.S. title. And now he's at a point where the screw job at Money in the Bank, because there was already friction between Jacob and Solo already. And now we're supposed to get to the point where that full breakup is supposed to happen with Solo Sikoa asking Jacob Fatu to come to SmackDown and say, I love you, Solo, and to correct what he did and to give forgiveness. But we know if Jacob Fatu even comes in, he's going to probably get attacked with a Hikuleo being brought into the mix with JC Mateo and Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga probably. They're all going to go ahead and attack. And Jacob Fatu will then now be the pawn here. And the bloodline will still be broken up instead of being consolidated. Like, one of the things I was looking at right now that looked kind of interesting is that Seth Rollins' faction was being confronted by Solo Sikoa and the other bloodline. Okay, fine. How about we do something where Roman Reigns and the group here, they get together, reconcile their differences. Like, we should have had a family meeting in front. When the bloodline was together and you had main event storylines and you had them in the ring on SmackDown, man, that was must-see segments on Raw and SmackDown. It was. It's the parts you wanted to watch because it was soap opera. It was so fascinating, so emotionally invested the whole way through. It has been squandered completely. And part of it is, I think, is because where Paul Heyman is no longer part of this faction, there is no creative force that's guiding this particular storyline anywhere. So who is the creative team doing anything right now? Whether it is with Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa, with Jey Uso, with Roman Reigns. Like, we're nowhere. It's completely fractured. Nothing has happened so far. It could have been the Von Erichs. It totally could have been. Why they chose not to go that route, I don't know. Let's go more into what Rikishi says about this storyline and get a little more context.
So now they passed the belt on to Gunther. For whatever reason. Hey, I ain't got no beef with Gunther. I ain't got no beef with any of those that are on the roster. I ain't got no beef with that. And if I do, I'm going to say it to your face, because that's just the type of man I am.
Now, Gunther getting the belt back to face Goldberg, I don't know if we needed the belt to be part of this to make it relevant. That's the other part I didn't get. Where Gunther didn't need to go ahead and get the belt back. If you're going to have Gunther and Goldberg face each other, Goldberg coming back to confront Gunther because of what he said before previously, fine. Let's tell that story again. How about playing a promo going back to what Gunther said? Goldberg, ask for the... Well, I mean, do they even do the Titantron anymore. They don't have that, right? We don't even have a screen that plays back highlights, which that used to be the most important thing they had when they were doing their segments, right? So the entrance has changed. We don't have a Titantron anymore. So to go ahead and call back up to get highlights or get a package played or get some kind of comments to be played back so that the audience is refreshed their memory as to what was done, you could have told a quick story about that. But this company chooses not to do that. They eliminated the Titantron. Production costs, I don't know. But we don't get any kind of rehashing back. Like, remember when Naomi says she broke into Bianca Belair's house? Could have helped to see something being done in there. It wouldn't have been that hard to do. You could have just made it look like an iPhone video. And you don't have to show Naomi in here or just have her on there and she's in the house. It didn't even have to be her house. But you could have done something to create the moment of her breaking into the house. So how are we supposed to believe that she went into the house if we don't even see anything of it? If it was even pictures, I could have lived with that. But they didn't even bother to go that route. For whatever reason, NXT still allows that kind of stuff to go on. They'll like call back to things and they'll have actual, setups of particular storylines that they do that are kind of staged and scripted, but not here. Main roster it's not allowed. For me, it felt like Gunther, there was not much of a reason to go and take the belt off of him. I understand why they went to Jey Uso, that's fine. But then where's the keeping with the momentum and keeping with Jey Uso? The stop and start doesn't help at all. And Rikishi's right about that. And I'm also agreeing with him when it comes to Gunther. I don't have a problem with him being here in this level either. But there's things you could have done with Gunther to kind of move forward with him too. I mean, do I care about John Cena and CM Punk reliving their feud once again in Saudi Arabia? You could have given me Gunther against John Cena, and then Gunther could have gone and make a switch. Could have still stayed heel in some way, but he could be the one going after John Cena. Because Gunther could be benefiting from going after John Cena and the belt. And even if he lost to John Cena, it wouldn't have hurt him. But CM Punk, again? With not much of a storyline being said. I mean, and he finally did mention it in storyline when John Cena and CM Punk confronted each other. And there's a part where I'll play with John Cena talking about that part. But I'll take that in a moment. We'll come back and revisit that. But let's go and finish more into what Rikishi was saying. And then I'll get to the part about John Cena and CM Punk. We'll get to that.
But let me back up. Good luck. Good luck if that's what your choice is to go that way. But let me back up and continue my thoughts on my son as far as, his run as the world champion. I didn't think it was justice. I didn't think it was fair. 51 days, that was it. I mean, in a Continental belt, a short run, that was it. Like, what is it? What is it against my boy that you just feel like when you had done that to Randy Orton, if you threw the belt on Randy Orton for him, would you have done that to, John Cena? I mean, let's talk about it. Because last I knew, the last time we seen WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas, damn it, he had the whole arena. The whole arena. Yeet. Yeet, yeet, yeet your motherfucking ass yeet. So come on. Come on. Somebody tell me. Tell me, what is it? The Bloodline has gave our heart and soul to this industry. 75 plus years. Past, present, and future. And God damn it, this is the way we treat it. This is the way y'all look at us.
So everything that Rikishi said right there, there is so much that could have been talked about or explained when you have the Samoan dynasty that you have with Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu. Listen, and there's going to be other members, maybe of the Samoan dynasty, that will also come in here. Lance Anoa'i has been talked about as well, being brought into the mix. You could take that lineage. You could tell it. You could do things where you could have the meetings of the family in Samoa. You could take back past footage. Talk about the Wild Samoans. You could talk about everything going back with The Rock and Rocky Johnson and all these other things that are being said, and build the Bloodline into something where no matter who's part of the Bloodline, they're at main event level, or they're going to be at such a level that you're going to pay attention. And the Bloodline had so many members, you can have them sprinkled across all the programming. All of Raw, SmackDown, all of it. Could have done that. Because at least you know that is a major arc of a storyline that is ongoing. And sometimes that just works really well. That's a big arc. The current major arc right now is John Cena's heel turn. And that's all we got. And it's not much on Seth Rollins' new faction, which has only gotten the Money in the Bank briefcase. That's all they got with it. So taking what CM Punk and John Cena said with each other, we didn't get all the great stuff with the start of the storyline where CM Punk accepts the Night of Champions opportunity to go after John Cena and the undisputed title, the WWE title. But John Cena, I feel like he has to always do a clarification every time he comes out here, because there's no storyline he's working with. There's no attaching what happens here or connecting the dots. John Cena has to connect the dots in real time to the crowd. No visuals, no nothing to work off of. So to go back and talk about CM Punk and saying that he is a hypocrite, and what Cena had said, I used CM Punk's sociopathic nature against him and backed him into a corner to the point where CM Punk really wants to take this title. He has to admit he's a hypocrite. Correct. So that's the part of the Saudi Arabia part. But then there's a part where John Cena specifically has said that he's going to take the belt with him and retire with it. He's going to take the belt and go home, which CM Punk was trying to do in 2011. And now, full circle, now we get to the point, but it was so late in the promo itself. Like when I was watching this, it wasn't not until the very end of the promo where CM Punk finally says something about what happened with him and the belt and what he was doing with it, right? Let's just take back to what CM Punk was saying to John Cena. And finally, after several segments and so many minutes of promo time, CM Punk finally gets to the point of why we could have a reason for this match.
Here's the truth that you want so badly. There's an old saying, you tell a strong man a lie to offend him. That's why it pisses me off when you, of all people, call me a hypocrite. Conversely, you tell a weak man the truth, and that offends him. And here's the truth, John.
I kind of felt like that CM Punk was kind of lost, but people thought this was great. People thought, oh, CM Punk is so on point in this promo. I didn't think so.
You can't beat me. When I'm at my best, you never could. And now, you said you're going to ruin wrestling. I'm taking it upon myself to go ahead and save it. Bear with me here, folks. I got a lot, as always, I got a lot I want to get off my chest.
That was a telling you his promo's not going in the right direction. I felt like he was kind of wandering, because he was. But people thought, oh, this was so on point of CM Punk. It's not until he takes about a good minute and a half or so talking back about the truth that he finally gets to the point, which should have been the focus of this match in the first place.
What was the other thing you said to me? Something about sociopathic confidence? Yeah, all right. That one I actually take as a compliment, because of my unwavering confidence in me and my ability that has brought me to the mountaintop time and time again. When people like you said they didn't see it, when people like you said I didn't have it.
This could have been said 10 years ago when he was in the company. It feels like we haven't moved
But
anywhere
I'm
forward.
not as a confident man as you are, because I will not walk out into a sold-out arena dressed like a toddler who just struck out at T-ball.
That's a promo he could have. That's a line he could have used back then before too.
Did you actually like that one? Because I personally would like that one stricken from the record, because you know who I sound like? Oh, I sound like a little PG John Cena.
Now we're getting to the point.
Which is ironic, because you know who you sound like? I'm going to ruin wrestling. I'm going to take the strap and leave. Man, you sound like CM Punk.
This is the part that should have been the whole focus of the storyline. If they're going to do this short.
And that's ironic. You're stealing my best material, John. I won the title. I left with the title. You're trying to follow in my footsteps. I did it. I said I was going to do it, and I did it. And you know what? You couldn't stop me. You think challenging me at Night of Champions is going to stop me? John boy, it's just like old times. Here's CM Punk to make your title run interesting. Here comes CM Punk to make John Cena's retirement tour palatable, watchable. Get the rocket fuel and fuel up that private jet that you fly around in. I will follow you to Mars to beat your ass.
Anyway, but in that promo, which by the way, that was about 9 minutes of a 10-minute segment, or it made it a little bit longer because with John Cena it was like about 13 minutes in, if I remember timing it right. When he talked about the fact that I'm starting to sound like PG John Cena and Cena's starting to sound like 2011 CM Punk, that's where we should have been in the first place. And that storyline coming up for Night of Champions coming up, that should have been the storyline we got him with. Because at least we would have gotten somewhere. That storyline should have been amplified. It shouldn't have been left to these two guys to cut a promo to make sense of this. Wasn't that hard for them to go back? If you could go back and remember, when CM Punk grabbed the belt, blew the kiss back to John Cena as he walks away, we could have seen that once again. It's not even, he can't even use best in the world anymore. Why can't you use that gimmick again? Why can't you use that slogan? I'm still best in the world. Something. But he won't. No direction for these two. So you could go on and let John Cena have to use something where he talks about the hypocrisy of CM Punk having to go to Saudi Arabia to go and confront John Cena for the belt. Okay, but the bigger story is that CM Punk is trying to stop John Cena from doing what CM Punk already did. You don't get to do what I did. You don't get to do that. And I'm going to do what I did before. I'm going to beat you for the belt one more time and stop your retirement. And make your retirement irrelevant because you're not going to get to do what you have planned out to do. But it's pretty clear we know CM Punk will not win the belt. I don't think so. You're putting in Saudi Arabia when you could have put this in any site rear in America and would have gotten a great pop, but they want to do that. So yeah, this is what they choose to go and do. They don't want to do storylines. They want to go ahead and think about what the rest of the show is too, because John Cena's not here every week. And then some of the direction you have in terms of the Seth Rollins faction, like regular things we would actually care about. If you're not going to do storylines, fine. But if you're not going to give us the stars we want to go and see on a regular basis, you could have gone with a light storyline with a Bloodline and had the Bloodline members out sprinkled throughout the shows. And I think that would have gotten a little more interest to people anyway, because you have a basically understanding of this family lineage and this group and everything that's been done after them. But they go back to this route of like, okay, you have John Cena having to come out and have to go and create the storyline with no direction. Hey, and he's doing this very best, but it's not enough here. Now with Jey Uso, let's make this point. Okay, some of you are going to say, well, he moves on the King of the Ring. All right. Well, let's take the part of Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed and that whole faction, and everybody talk about the fact of what a great finish to Raw on Monday night when they set that up. let's go to that route real quick and talk about that. So here's what was being played out on Raw in the match that Jey Uso had. Let's talk about that real quick.
Sami Zayn, who's got Orton in the semifinals Friday night, is fired up. Haluma kick, Braun breaker. Oh no, oh no. Goodness, with Sami Zayn.
Oh my God, look out!
His head, and he just pressed it through Sami Zayn over the announce table to the floor.
So Sami Zayn's going to the semifinals of the King of the Ring tournament. We know that. Penta, for whatever reason, is helping out Jey Uso to attack the Seth Rollins faction.
Who was taken out by Breaker and company before Money in the Bank.
There's carnage all over the place. Bronson Reed has Jey Uso, Death Valley driver.
And now going to go up top and put Uso away off the DDD.
Bronson perched up to
LA Knight.
And LA Knight being involved to take down Bronson Reed. So you just got a bunch of a hodgepodge of stars to help Jey Uso win to advance the King of the Ring.
Big Bronson Reed is down. Jey making the climb to the top turnbuckle.
Off the spear. Uso splash.
Across the back of Reed.
Can Jey Uso do it again? Bronson Reed's in trouble.
Hits another splash and he wins. But
Uso splash again.
they honestly think that just if Jey Uso just continues to chase whatever he's going after, that's all that matters. But why do we have to keep having Jey Uso chase? Doesn't make any sense to me. But that's what they want to choose to go with. Now, there was also an interesting comment being said from Mark Raimondi, who was on the Ariel Helwani show, wrote a book on the NWO with Simon & Schuster. He's a fight reporter, MMA kind of stuff, MMA and wrestling. So he talks to Ariel Helwani about the whole deal of what was missed on the Cena heel turn so far. It has not been a disaster, but there was no follow through, which is what we said about John Cena beforehand. Let's go and talk about that here.
We spoke in April after Cena turned.
Yes.
And we were comparing Cena's turn to Hogan's turn.
My take did not age well at all.
Yo, I said
Terrible. It aged terribly.
I said at the time this is nowhere near.
Yeah.
But we have to wait, Jesh. I mean, now anyone who said this was as big or bigger, has it been a disaster?
It hasn't been a disaster, but it was obvious that they had no follow through, or maybe they thought they did, but they did not end up following through because The Rock has not appeared since then. Travis Scott had the one appearance at WrestleMania, but there's never been any kind of like explanation. Like we thought we had like the next NWO.
Yeah.
Right? Like the next big thing that's going to cross over into pop culture. And they never followed up with The Rock and Travis Scott. It just became Cena like turning on the fans, and the other stuff was forgotten. So it felt very empty. Incredible angle in the moment, in a vacuum. But since then, it has definitely left a lot to be desired.
So there's the thing where the heel turn for John Cena and The Rock not being involved with it, also pretty bad. These are the issues, the major arc issues that we have. Look, you can go ahead and talk about, oh, well, look at all these other things. We have these other shiny things going on. Oh, we got the Evolution pay-per-view, another Evolution for women's wrestling for WWE coming up. So that'll showcase Stephanie Vaquer and Julia. Unfortunately, Liv Morgan won't be a part of it, but you have others, right? They got a lot of roster out there that can go and be working matches, and they get set up for that. In the overall context of things, they got Night of Champions. And in that, you have set up the King and Queen of the Ring tournament finals. Where we're going to go with that. AJ Styles will take on Dominic Mysterio for the Intercontinental title. And John Cena, CM Punk. That's what you got so far. Okay. But at the moment, no Bloodline stars anywhere involved in this too much here. I mean, they're setting things up, but still. When you look at the current setup of the King and Queen of the Ring, do we know that the winner of these two matches we're going to get title shot opportunities as a result? I don't know. But it's Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso that'll be featured in the semifinals. And Sami Zayn and Randy Orton right now set up. So we don't know if, I think at the end of the day, Cody Rhodes is going to go ahead and win this to be able to get another chance at a title, if that's what the case is going to be. On the women's side, Roxanne Perez and Jade Cargill, Alexa Bliss and Asuka on the other bracket to set up for that tournament. I don't know if they're looking to have anything where, I mean, if there's any of those stars that I think would get a chance to go after, either one of these titles, of the women's titles, I guess it would be Asuka, or I guess it would be Roxanne Perez. I'm not even sure. There's not any real rhyme or reason what they're doing with these tournaments either. They're just kind of setting them up. So they are facing world champions of the respective brands at SummerSlam. That is the plan for that. Again, and we also know that we had where some of the stars they had in here that they might want to be doing with, like Stephanie Vaquer, doesn't win over Asuka in that four-way they had with Raquel Rodriguez and Ivy Nile. No Julia to be seen in this right here at all. Rhea Ripley loses in her match here. With all the changes being done in that particular route, right? And you look at the stars that they had for the first round of the King of the Ring. Penta has been like lost in translation. For what a great start they had with him, nothing. No Rey Fenix to be set of in this in either. Braun Breaker, Dominic Mysterio, and Sami Zayn's the one that wins out of all this. Randy Orton over LA Knight, Aleister Black, Carmelo Hayes. That makes a lot of sense. And Cody Rhodes over Damian Priest, Andrade, and Shinsuke Nakamura. And as we heard about Jey Uso beating Sheamus, Rusev, and Bronson Reed. That's it. So now we got to go figure out what's going to go on with that. Like, there's not much sense in the brackets of the King and the Queen of the Ring either of what they're doing. But hey, notice that the juvenile delusional fandom, they're not talking at all about WWE right now and the issues they have with the questionable booking right now of the King and Queen of the Ring, the John Cena CM Punk storyline they've built up out of nothing for Night of Champions, and for the Saturday Night's Main Event match with Gunther and Goldberg. I don't think they've gone in a good direction on any of those storylines. No, instead, we're going to go after Tony Khan. Let's go after Tony Khan because of the way he talked about ratings. So here's what he said at Con Lions. He was talking with Yahoo Finance, and he said this.
It feels like 2025 is, in a lot of ways, the best year we've had. I mean, we're having a great...
Well, how big is the biz? How many sales do you bring in? I mean, is it making money? Like, what do you?
Yeah, we're doing fantastic. This was a huge year for us. We grew the business so much with the simulcast.
Gotcha.
We brought in new audience with Max and streaming, but also we've been able to grow our cable audience year over year. Frankly, that cable and satellite and
growth in cable. Who's doing that?
Well, honestly, us, because a lot of people thought when you start simulcasting AEW on Wednesday nights and Saturday nights, oh, okay, well, a lot of people, they're still going to watch the show, but people are going to migrate to streaming. Well, actually, our cable audience, when we started simulcasting, went up, and we have a great audience on Max streaming every week, too. So we have been able to do that, and we've really maintained and grown a great audience over the years. AEW, we say it's where the best wrestle, and I really believe that's true. I think we have the best roster of wrestlers in the world.
So he's, doing the cheerleading for the company where it's being set. Now, people want to go ahead and make comments about the cable ratings right now, what they've been doing so far. Got it. Okay, so one of the people that is usually like the megaphones out here that want to go ahead and bash AEW on a regular basis are talking about the fact that for them, every metric is down for them in the cable end, they say, okay? So this time last year, they were averaging a little less than 700,000 viewers on average. Now you look at the first 3 months of 2025, it's dropped down about 80,000 viewers on average. And the demographic of 18 to 49-year-olds has dropped a little bit too. 24% decline in viewership on cable. Fine. And then you could say there was a decrease between the second quarter, which is April to June of last year, with this year, there's been a drop of that too. Okay. And that he's also talking about the fact that viewership, since they started simulcasting on Max, well, nobody would talk about the fact that the AEW video library is being put up on Max right now. We're going to be HBO Max once again. He makes a point and says a lot of people, when you start simulcasting, a lot of people are going to actually migrate to streaming, and our cable audience, when we started simulcasting, went up. So right now, Collision has not been a program they've had regularly on Saturday nights. They've been tying it together with what they've been doing after Dynamite, because they're looking to go ahead and find a new time slot for Collision, whatever that's going to be. But right now they're kind of working through, well, they were just working through the NBA playoffs, and now they have the Stanley Cup Finals you just finally finished up with to get to this point. And there's other things that TNT is doing right now in terms of their sports programming. They just got through Roland Garros, the French Open. So they're going through a number of things of what they're going to do in terms of where AEW is going to be placed going forward. But it's obvious that the Dynamite program is going to stay where it's at. Of course, they did take a dip in their programming. The last couple of weeks, the episodes are going to drop because you're going to have to count the entire 4 hours of programming, which, yeah, the drop-off is going to be big. But we're not getting any kind of numbers in terms of what the audience was for the first 2 hours of Dynamite to see if it is getting a little bit better. For NXT, yeah, it got better because it's on network programming. A lot more viewers possible. With Dynamite Collision, you're talking about having that audience where they're not doing, they're doing the live coast to coast, where the live show starts at 5 o'clock. Changes of that. Plus, we don't know what the numbers for streaming is on Max, but we know we've heard that number, that static number that's supposed to be 500,000 viewers every week that you could just add on to that. Well, that's a nice way to do it, but I know it's probably not true. But if you look at what the real news is for them, Dave Meltzer brought it up on Wrestling Observer last year when the deal was finalized for AEW. No matter what, their new deal right now for broadcast rights did go up, and they got the Max deal where they got more eyeballs to watch on Max. Plus, they got the new deal with Amazon Prime for their pay-per-views off of Triller. Like, they're doing significantly really well because of the fact they can still command premium prices for their pay-per-views. They're not doing what they're doing right now, what WWE is doing right now with Peacock. Like, for them, nobody's talking about the fact that AEW gets their pay-per-views done 8-9 a year, and they're still getting people to go ahead and pay full price. What is it, $49.99 for one of those shows, or $39.99? Still, that's quite a bit of money. They're still able to go ahead and get a show that is going to be quality, but people don't think about the fact of that because the juvenile delusional fandom is looking at the fact that, well, you know, some of these people that are watching now probably don't even remember we used to have to pay $55 or $65 per pay-per-view to watch on standard definition or high definition. So to reiterate, Dave Meltzer made the point that it was a 3-year deal that set up $555 million. So they did significantly more money than they got before. $180 million for this year, $185 for 2026, $190 million for 2027. An option year for 2028 at a significantly higher number. And of course, the incorporation of Max, where they're simulcasting Dynamite and Collision. So it's all in one place to go and watch too, unlike WWE, where you have to go and go through either USA, CW, Peacock, or Netflix to go and watch the programming. And that their whole entire video library being migrated in 2025. But then eventually, you'll have AEW pay-per-views also on Max to be put in there as well, but also at a discounted rate. So all that being done, plus the changes they decided to go and do where Rampage was taken off, Battle of the Belts, and just stick to 2 shows right now. They'll probably have another show coming up. They're still talking about that. But still, nevertheless, they made significant changes. And I still think that there was a lull because of the broadcast deal that took away momentum of the company because Tony Khan, in terms of booking, was not booking in the best mind. Probably had some other people he probably outsourced to do that, and they didn't do the best of work on it. Which is why you had a lot of older stars taking up a lot of spots on the roster. And then once you see Tony Khan getting back in after the broadcast deal is finalized, then you see everything kind of coming back into play. Anyway, there's more I could be talking about when it comes to what Tony Khan said. And look, for the fact that the audience is out there trying to go ahead and build a lot of flack on Tony Khan, listen, looks like he's going to do okay with All in Texas. They're getting more seats being added now to get a pretty good show out of that. They do got a really strong card when they got John Moxley, Hangman Adam Page for the AEW World Title. The women's title with Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné, Kenny Omega, Kazuchika Okada for the Unified Championship. Like those 3 solid matches right there to go and build up for next month in Texas. Love all that being set up. And of course, a lot of the events they have going up, leading up to it. And I thought Grand Slam Mexico was pretty good, keeping it very traditional, very much a CMLL show. And yeah, it was long, but I wasn't expecting too much out of that, being more than just an exhibition, and build off of that. But that's good enough for me. I'll take that. But anyway, we'll go and keep an eye on what's going to happen leading up to the Night of Champions for next week. See what else they do with it. But like I said, with all the things that WWE is doing right now, they could have done so much better by taking more of the Bloodline and milking it for what it's worth. I'm talking about years of storylines with this squandered. Come back next week with another Wrestling Podcast because wrestling needs us.